good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are listening from. This is T from T Unapologetically. That time has come to review this Michael movie. So let me start off proper. All righty. So I know probably some of you have already saw the Michael movie, probably looked at some spoiler alerts or listened to some other broadcasters, or you have not seen it yet. But if you have not, please skip this. This is a spoiler episode. But we're gonna go ahead and get started on this Michael movie, Lord Jesus. So let me set off to left and the right. If you have not subscribed to T, please go ahead subscribe. I am on Spotify, Apple, uh yeah, it's all on the description box. Sorry. So, as of last week, the box office number is coming in at 270 mil since its debut. I saw it about 3 times. I saw the early screening 2 days before the movie came out. I saw it the day that the movie came out. Well, that Friday that it came out, and I saw it that Sunday with my daughter, her coming back to school. So let's get in there. I will rate the movie, and I thought about it so many times. As a true MJ fan, I'm going to rate it a good 8.2. At first, it was an 8.75, but I'm going to say an 8.2. And we're going to dive into why and what was some missing pieces, and also, discover some things that were covered in the movie. The overall opinion for me, and it's a lot of MJ fans that feel this way, the overall movie, the production was good, but the plot lines was rushed. Like it just did this one scene and then it jumped to another scene. And if you're gonna do something like, and I understand, let's get the shit on out the way. I understand you cannot cover Michael's whole life in 2 hours. I get that. But if you're gonna do something right. Like, even though they jump from scene to scene, they should have been something transition. But I'm gonna hop into how they could have done it. So this is first thing I came up. I said it's two sides to the movie. If you are just a fan of his music and you didn't grow up in the era where he was popping, then this will be a good starter kit for you to know something about MJ. But if you like me, you know this how I described this movie was a college paper or a high school paper where you have the main idea and then you have three paragraphs and then you have the conclusion. It was just very clip perfect. Clip note version of Michael's actual life. And second side, like I said, and I've heard this and I was the first I was like, okay, I get it. The Jacksons' American Dream was much better than this film. Totally honest. The Jacksons' American Dream. And I'll hop into that later in the show. But it was just so much stuff that left out. So let's get into character development. Now, I got to give credit where credit's due. I was a little bit iffy about this young man playing his uncle. I, I got to give it to Javar. I guess that's his name. I gotta give it to him, except for what he did, the Billie Jean, Motown 25, and the Thriller. I don't know about y'all, but it was that moonwalking wasn't moonwalking. Now when he did the live, what's it called, Human Nature at the end. Oh yeah, he had them steps down pat. But I have to give it to he studied. I came in, I told him to eat, sleep, and shit. His uncle. Hold on, let me wet my whistle. And for those who went to the movie. I don't know if y'all got one of these, the Michael cup. And also, you know me, I'm a memorabilia person. And I got the popcorn can here. I almost had to fight a kid, but that's neither here nor there. The design setup, I would have to say, like, the overall design and production was great. Uh, a shout out to the home team, Mr. Jalen Lyndon Hunter. He played the young Marlon. He is from the M Town, Memphis, Tennessee, 901, where I'm from. You know, the city that LeBron, no hairline, having looking ass, talk shit about. Well, guess what? One of our own was in the fucking movie, bitch. Sorry. But he played the young Marlon. He was there at the premiere. I wasn't able to get a picture with him, but is it? I gotta do like fucking dynamic. Is it me? Was the brothers and Latoya was just stand-ins? See, with the Jackson's American Dream, everybody had their own intricate part, but I felt like the brothers had about one or two lines. They was standing, and Jermaine, I don't think I caught that bullshit of you not exposing all of your dirt since you was producer. If you go tell it all. But it was just no development there. They was just there, and come to find out. Of course, you know, with the whole thing, which I'm gonna hop into, but they was like stand-ins. Like they was just kind of no character development, no plot line, even though it was all about Michael. But it's like they were just kind of like there, like stand-ins. The missing pieces of Reby and Janet. Now, it has been reported that Janet didn't want to be a part of the film because it was one or two things. Her and Jermaine got beef, and she didn't like how her brother was being portrayed in the film. And I totally get that because it felt off. Like even my daughter, like, where's Janet? Because let's keep it all the way 100. Mike and Latoya was not that tight. They was just kind of like he was only tight with, in my opinion, Janet, Marlon, and Tito from time to time. I always say Reby and Jackie was kind of like the floating older siblings, which jumps into my other point. No mention of Reby. Reby is the oldest. If you don't know who Reby is, go on YouTube right now, Google Centipede. In the quiet of the night. She was a one-hit wonder, but that jump right there still slaps to this day. I guess Reby was kind of like, okay, since everybody's singing, let me go ahead and sing my goddamn song and get the fuck on out the way. After that, she just kind of faded in the background. And I get that. She didn't want the fame and fortune and all that other stuff. So Reby was missing. Now, the dude that played Joe Jackson, I had my doubts. He did good. A lot of people say, "Oh, they did Joe as one-dimensional." Anybody know Joe Jackson, that was him. A manager, kind of pushy, whooped everybody's ass. Not just Michael, as they put in the film. He whooped everybody's ass except Janet, allegedly. So the guy, I think his name Carmen, I ain't gonna mess up his name. But he did good as Joe Jackson. Now, here's where I don't know if y'all noticed. His lawyer was his Bronca, and his driver, Billy Ray, seems to be the secondary main characters. Like, you had Michael, you had Joe, you had Catherine, and let me put a pin there. Nia Long played Catherine, and right now she's suing Lionsgate because she put in her contract that allegedly, let me say allegedly, that she was paid less than the main actor. And she had more lines in the movie. And I now that makes sense because I'm like, damn, I'm thinking Nia's gonna be all through the movie because Mike was closer to his mom than anything. Allegedly, they said she had more lines, but it was cut out. So go ahead and get your money. But she did good as Catherine. How the way she talked, moved, everything. And I was so happy to see Lorenz Tate as Barry Gordy because I like Darius and Papa. They was back a blues for Nina. Love Jones. Some of y'all that's younger than me, y'all know anything about that. But back to the story ahead. It seems like his lawyer and his driver was like the secondary main characters. Now, I remember his lawyer briefly. I remember his lawyer briefly. And his driver, once I saw the real picture of him, I'm like, oh, I remember that. But it's like it was centered, that was the secondary characters. And I'm like, hold on, wait a minute. But come to find out, and I'm going to say allegedly. Well, no. During the credits, the lawyer is one of the executive producers, but allegedly he has control of Michael's estate. Allegedly. But they was like the secondary main characters because they had more screen time versus Michael, Joe, Catherine, then the lawyer, and then the bodyguard. Those are the motherfuckers that had a lot of screen time. And that formula was off to me. How he really met Quincy was not explained. No mention of the Wiz. This is one of the things I had a problem with. After it faded into him being in Quincy's house, it was just, oh, I want to do this album. Okay. Why didn't y'all fade that into how he actually met him? He actually met Quincy on the set of The Wiz as he played the Scarecrow. And it's a part of The Wiz where I guess it was turning green or gold. And you see this guy that's on the piano, that's Quincy Jones. He scored The Wiz. He did all the, my favorite one. Say what you want, but I'm here to stay because I'm a mean online. That was my, but Michael, he was a scarecrow. You can't win, you can't break even, and you can't get out of. Baby, if that song ain't popular right now in these days, listen to the song. I promise you, it applies to today and everything that's going on. But there was no explanation. Just Q just appeared out of thin air, and no mention of the Wiz. Here is a suggestion how they could have easily, a lot of things they could have easily, and it wouldn't have took no time. When Q, before he got to Q, they should have shown him in his room reading over I got a script from either talking to his mom. Oh, look, I got a script from the Wiz to play the Scarecrow. And I looked over it and it has this person, that person, and this guy named Quincy Jones. I really want to work with him. That could have transitioned from there. See how short that was? Then it could have jumped to that scene. But hey, that didn't happen. And no mention of the Wiz. That's what really pissed me off because I think, yeah, no mention of the Wiz. I think Q has the rights to that. I don't know. Allegedly. The true stories behind Off the Wall and Thriller. In the movie, they made Off the Wall seem like that album that Mike just poured his heart and soul to. And Thriller be the secondary album. Not true. Mike loved Off the Wall. Off the Wall did break him away from the whole Jackson 5 brand. And it came out towards the end of the disco era to almost going into the 80s. He liked the album, but he didn't like that it was getting the commercial success. He was being pigeonholed as an R&B artist with Off the Wall. I don't give a damn. Argue with your mammy. Argue with your choices in life. Off the Wall, hands down, is the best MJ album. That's the best MJ album. That is a no skip album as far as the whole composition and R&B and just the whole just album as a whole. Thriller's a no skip album, but Thriller had pop elements here and there. You know, it had a little bit of R&B, but then it had pop here and there. Off the Wall was straight R&B. Besides, let's see. I don't think Don't Stop Till You Get Enough was well, to me, Don't Stop Till You Get Enough was R&B to me. But he didn't like that Off the Wall to get commercial success. So he decided, I gotta assemble a dream team for Thriller. I'm trying to get out of this R&B staple that my family is pigeonholed in, and I want to make music for everybody. Now, let's put a pin there. For those who didn't grow up in the 80s, Black artists music was segregated as far as television and radio. If you was R&B, you was gonna get played on R&B. If you was pop, you was gonna get played on pop. Let me break it down. If you was black, you gonna get played on black radio. If you was white, you was gonna get played on white radio. And the thing is that the pop and the rock and roll was getting more money, more spent on budget towards their stuff, while people that were black artists and R&B they didn't give them much budget because oh, oh, Jesus, y'all gonna hear me do a lot of sniffing because my sinuses is drained, but they didn't get enough money allocated to push their project to the other side, which is called crossover. You'll hear that a lot back in the 80s and early 90s, but mostly definitely in the 80s, where they like, ooh, I just want to cross over here. Because here's the thing, when you crossed over to their side, they take you seriously and you get considered for Grammys, all these different American Music Awards, because you reached a wide audience. So Mike felt like the music that I make is not just for my black people, it's for everybody. And one thing he said that was so powerful, and I'm glad they whew, I'm glad they put that in there. And he said, I'm a proud black artist. Because a lot of people was just hating on Michael, saying, oh, you want to be white and stuff. So with Thriller, I'm glad he mentioned Rod Temperton, but he mentioned him on Off the Wall. He did write some song. Well, he was all over Thriller. Research Rod Temperton. I ain't gonna give you the background of it. Also the song that's being played a lot lately. Why? Why? Tell him that it's human nature. Why? Why? Mike Help wrote that. But you know who really wrote that? Toto. I forgot the guy's name. If you don't know Toto, I touched the rain down in Africa. Research it. It was a lot of folks they brought on, including Greg Philliganes, who did the da 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 da. They failed to mention that it was Mike was definitely, he like, I want this to be the crossover hit. Period. It's gonna be a no skip album. So they just really skipped over that. The Thriller video scandal. The making of Thriller is actually on YouTube right now for you to watch. The Thriller video scandal was when he came out with the movie, the mini movie video. To me, it was a fucking movie with music added to it. First of his kind. He put it out there, and at that time, he was a devout Jehovah's Witness. And they shunned him. They was like, "Oh, you're promoting a cult. You know, you're being anti-religious," and they threatened to pull his video off. So Mike said, "Okay, let me put this statement out." That's why in the beginning of Thriller, that little personal statement that we always skip over, like, why he put that out there? Because they was asking for the video to be pulled because it was related to like stuff that was demonic and of a cult. So he didn't want to piss them off. So that's why he put that statement in there. Read at the beginning, very beginning of Thriller. They didn't mention that either. And they didn't mention Dirty Diana. No. Diana Ross. I was waiting for that. But probably Auntie didn't want her business out in the street, but yeah. Hold on. Yeah, Auntie probably didn't want her business out in the street. It's Stephanie Mills, which he met on the set of Wiz. That's another thing that they didn't mention. He had an infatuation with Stephanie Mills. I think there is a interview, but I understand probably aunties didn't want to be in it and be in the movie, but it's those are the things as an MJ fan, they missed the mark on it. It was like a rush job. Yeah, you spent hours and hours on the production. The production was straight, but the storyline fell flat, like really flat. So hidden gems that were missed. This is where I can give him some credit. Billie Jean on MTV. That was actually a true story. That was a true story. With Mike Myers on there. Oh my God. I didn't know who the fuck he was. I kept looking at the screen like, what? I know this dude. That whole scene where he had him to call Bob Pittman of MTV to put Billie Jean on MTV. Now, for those who didn't grow up in the 80s, come a little closer. Auntie got a story time to tell you. When MTV premiered in 1981, it was an alternative rock station. Translation, we're playing nothing but all white music. Duran Duran, Wham, my favorite, Van Halen, Aerosmith, Poison, Bon Jovi, Pat Benatar. I can go on and on. We're gonna play Cyndi Lauper. We're gonna play those artists. We're not gonna do black music because that's gonna scare our fan base in these hit towns. So when the guy called up Bob Pittman and said that whole thing of if you don't play this, I'm gonna pull all of my artists, that was a true story. That was an exact true story. And I'm so glad they mentioned that because a lot of people do not know how Billie Jean was the first video of a black artist that was played. Actually, I'm thinking not that. I think the first one was either Rocket by Herbie Hancock or We're Gonna Rock Down to Electric Avenue. It's one of the three, but I know Mike was major. But Mike making boss moves. What this movie demonstrated was Mike was a boss. And a lot of people think, oh, since he talks so timid and no, Mike was a boss. In case y'all forgot, Mike is a Virgo. He's a Virgo. And you know how Virgos do. Shout out to my Virgos. He was a boss. He knew exactly what he wanted. He knew what type of product he wanted to produce. In fact, on This Is It, the movie where he was going over The Way You Make Me Feel, and MD Mike Burrell, funny as fuck, shout out to him. He was doing it. He was like, no, play how I wrote it. And he got his worth ethic. And here's another thing they ain't putting there. You know what Mike got his worth ethic from? He got it from James Brown. How he ran his show and how he did things was from James Brown. Also, I saw they mentioned no Beatles catalog. I guess Paul McCartney still he's still salty about that deal. FYI, if y'all don't know, For some who don't know, basically in a nutshell, uh, Mike just bought the Beatles catalog back then, which was worth billions. And I always thought that pretty much him and Paul McCartney, he was on the Girl Is Mine's and he was on Paul McCartney's Say, Say, Say. And I was sure this went like, hey, Mike, how are you doing? Guess what? Right now, the Beatles catalog is going to go up on sale, and this is how much it's going to cost. And, you know, if you get it, it'll be great, and I'll buy it back from you. And I'm sure Mike like, okay, yeah, Paul, I'll do that. Mike bought that shit, said, fuck you, Paul. This is mine. So they didn't bitch that either. I guess Paul kind of salty about that. Number 3, want to be starting something bridge. If you look in the movie, and this is where I saw it 3 times because I didn't want to miss anything for this review, and I want to cover some things that people overlook. When he was going through all the different stuff in the movie, it was an index card, and it said, "I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm not gonna stop." And then he flipped it over and said, "Mama say, Mama sa, Mama kusa." That's actually true. I'm gonna prove to you. Mama said, Mama saw Mama kusa. 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 Listen, I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm not gonna stop. I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm not gonna stop. I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm not gonna stop. That's actually true. All these years we've been saying Mama saw, but hey, didn't know what the fuck it was. He didn't want to tour. That was true. He did not want to tour. So that's when they did the victory tour. He was like, fuck it, since y'all wouldn't let me tour for Thriller and Off the Wall, I'm gonna perform all my shit on both albums. So he did not want to tour, and it's a clip where he admits out of his mouth he didn't like touring. He was like, I don't like to tour. And he was like, nah, say so positive. He said, I go through hell touring. He was like, no, he said, I'll say something positive. And he said, I love to tour. Y'all gotta see it. But he didn't want to tour at all. After he did Off the Wall, he wanted to do, in Thriller, he wanted to do his own thing. And he didn't want to tour with his brothers. And Kev on stage, y'all have to find this clip on the bullshit that happened on the Victory Tour where Mike flew a separate flight, had his own plane, was in separate hotels. He did not want to do that whatsoever. He's like, look, I'm going to do this for my brothers. After this, I need to do what I need to do. Joe Jackson, Don King link up. That did happen. One thing, and I didn't know that was Deion Cole playing Don King. I'm like, what the hell? So I kept looking. I'm like, damn, I know this dude. Just so happened it was Deion Cole. Joe Jackson and Don King link up did happen. Don King was the promoter, but he wasn't the only one that sealed the deal with Pepsi. And they failed to mention who sealed the deal with Pepsi. You know who sealed the deal with Pepsi? The Black Godfather, may he rest in peace, Clarence Avant sealed that deal. Go on Netflix and watch The Black Godfather and tell me I'm lying. Clarence Avant sealed that deal. Don King did not do it by himself. He was just he was a promoter for boxing. The brainchild behind that was Clarence Avant. So it wasn't just him and Joe. Clarence Avant was behind that as well. Now, I did see John Landis and Rick Baker when they did the reenactment of Thriller, where he told could John back it up or so they could see the feet. Now he also the girl that played the girl on Thriller, that's actually Leela Rashawn's daughter. She's married to the director. If you don't know Leela Rashawn, she was Robin on Waiting to Exhale. And for us 80s babies, I got a girl who pussy is so good. If you throw it up in the air, it turn into sunshine. That was her daughter that played. So when you see John Landis, you see the guy with the Beatles haircut and big glasses. John Landis and Rick Baker, he had the shirt on saying, want to see something scary. That's all on making a thriller. So, and I see they ain't put Michael Peters on there because Michael Peters was the guy that actually choreographed it and choreographed Beat It as well. But not my movie. The vitiligo, they didn't really go into detail. They just showed that he had it. And here is the fucked up part. Towards the end, he's one color and then he's a whole nother different color. Once again, no transition. He just poof. Like, how severe did his vitiligo get? Well, he had to take extreme measures. They didn't go into that. They just mentioned it, but hopefully they'll put it other. Why he got the nose job? I've heard so many different scenarios. One is because he broke his nose. The other one, which they mentioned, I've heard that before, was he didn't like the picture of Off the Wall and his face was very, as he said, not asymmetrical. And I've heard Bubbles bit his nose off, but those are all rumors. But they did somewhat go into why he got a nose job, but they didn't go in deep detail. Lying about his age was cleared up when he first came out. Barry Gordy said, "You're 8 and not 10." I've heard that in the past that he came out saying that he was 8 years old, but he was actually 10. So I'm glad they cleared it up. I'm sorry, y'all. Sinus is draining like a motherfucker. Uh, so I'm glad they got cleared up. His mother introduced him to the Three Stooges, Charlie Chaplin, and Fred Astaire. I've heard Michael mention this a lot, especially Fred Astaire, which he got a majority of his dancing from. In fact, Fred Astaire complimented him on when he did the moonwalk because he thought he was terrible at it at that time. But Fred Astaire gave him a call and said, "You knocked them on their asses." And Fred Astaire was like, to the white people, was like the dancing genius. So now it makes sense why he was into Fred Astaire, Three Stooges, and Charlie Chaplin, because those were the times where he watched it with his mom. How he got on drugs after the Pepsi accident, I'm gonna be honest, when I saw it, I did cry a little bit because it was in slow motion. And it was a part in the movie where they wanted to get he had to be on Demerol, which was one of the drugs that he took. Whew. So I realized the reason why I knew he had third degree burns in the part in the top of his head. It had to be a wig piece. But I thought it was a one time thing. And when the doctor said they had to replace it ever so often because of the nerve damage and he'll be in a lot of pain. See, that I didn't know. I knew he had to wear a wig piece, but I didn't know that it had to be replaced very often, which he said I didn't want that stuff in my body. Y'all want me to be really real? I don't think Michael Jackson was never the same mentally after that Pepsi accident. That's where I think the whole him taking medicine start slowly coming to the surface. And back then, we didn't have, the intense social media where everybody is a private investigator. But I think he was not the same after that. And I'm not gonna be a conspiracy theorist and say that somebody set him up. But if you know, you know. But I think that right there was the introduction to drugs for him, and not the hardcore stuff, the painkillers, in which eventually they say claimed his life, but I think that's some bullshit as well. But not my ministry. Now let's get into it. I mentioned in the beginning, Jackson's American Dream debuted in 1992. I was 8 years old, and it was a four or five part miniseries. Angela Bassett played Catherine. Uh, Terrence Howard was in. I think he played Jackie Jermaine, and Jason Weaver is the only motherfucker that could play young Michael. That motherfucker right there was singing. Jason Weaver. But it was a 5-part series directed by Susan DePassy. That's who was the director. She was in the movie, and once again, little to no speaking lines. And she was played by Vanessa Williams. And she was very involved with the Jacksons because she was part of Motown at that time. But that mini series was so slept on, and I'm liking that a lot of us and younger people are going back to see it. I think it was on Tubi at one point in time. I don't know if Tubi put it back on there, but if you want to know everything about the Jacksons in whole, watch the Jacksons American Dream. That right there is like versus the Jacksons is like Jacksons, Michael Jackson movie, Cliff Notes. The Jacksons American Dream, the original book. And the storylines and the plot lines and the character development is flawless. Even when they did the whole thing with the brothers. Easy me. When they got older, the only brother I could recognize was Marlon, Randy, and possibly Jackie. Cause they didn't look all. I could tell even with my nigga Tito, rest in peace. I didn't know it was Tito till I saw the Tito hat. I'm like, the fuck? That's my nigga Tito? No, no, no. So part two, of course, at the end they say his story continues. Hopefully they take the fans suggestions. So part two, this is what I think they need to address. Go into in depth about his vitiligo. You ain't just gonna have him pop out as bad and he a whole nother different color. You need to go into detail what happened, the struggle. And please no allegation talk out of respect for the fans. We all know about the whole allegation thing, which I think is a setup to this day. And that's one of the things the media wanted to, that's the reason why, because, out of respect for the fans. I know it was part of his life, but just out of respect, don't go into detail. Please don't. That's one thing I am begging of you. We need the clarification of him marrying Lisa Marie. Word on the curb, allegedly, was he married Lisa Marie after the first allegations happened. To kind of clear his name, because there was a lot of stuff that going on was saying that he was gay. Nah, Michael was not gay at all. Michael loved pussy. I guess he didn't like having sex. I don't know. But far from it. But at that time, there was a whole thing of, oh, he might be gay. Whatever. Now, when he married Lisa Marie, I thought that was a middle finger to the media. Like, y'all gonna call me the king of pop? Cool. I'm finna marry the king of rock's daughter. You can't say shit about it. So, the introduction to his baby moms and children. I know one of the baby mom, I think her name is Debbie Rowe, was his nurse. I think she was his nurse when he was on the bad tour or something like that. But that should be something that should be addressed. The story behind Dangerous meeting Teddy Riley, Eddie Murphy, and late John Singleton. Dangerous was his third album, and I know y'all gonna probably hate me when I say this. I didn't like the bad album. I love the bad tour. I just didn't like the bad album. It had some hits here and there, but it was like more, it was more poppy than normal. It was like more pop music. And I'm like, oh, okay. I just don't really like that tour. I love. But Dangerous was him coming out swinging. He hooked up with Teddy Riley, which back in those days, I think it was 92, 93, New Jack Swing was the shit. And he was the godfather of the New Jack Swing, which was Teddy Riley. And how he linked up with Eddie Murphy on Remember the Time, and John Singleton did direct that. John Singleton is director of, oh, y'all got Google, research John Singleton. I ain't finna go over this man's profile, but hopefully cover in the movie. Also, how he got his movies on all major networks. I would love to see how he got that shit done because nobody else has not done it yet, except him. I've said in my previous episode of Shimon Now, Michael was the only nigga where they paused primetime television to air a music video. That's like Hulu, Netflix, Tubi, Disney Plus, HBO Max says, okay, we finna stream this video at this time. That's how it was back in the day with Michael Jackson. And also the Super Bowl performance where he just stood there the whole time. But in all, I would have to say, production-wise, I was impressed. Storyline, I wasn't impressed. I would give, like I said, that's why I give it a solid 8.1. Now, also Flex, we forgive you. We forgive you. Flex Washington, we forgive you. I'm just letting you know that I'm looking into the camera. We forgive you, okay? We forgive you. As the Black community, we forgive you, okay? If you don't know, if you know, you know. Production was great. Just storyline fell flat. It fell really flat and rushed. And pretty much the Jackson American Dream just took his dick out and pissed over that movie. But hopefully they'll be able to make it up. But that's about it for my review. Please comment below. Let me know your rating of the movie from a scale of 1 to 10 and where they missed the mark at, or also what should be included in the next section in the part 2, which I think it's probably gonna be more than 2 parts, probably 3. Go ahead and do 3 because you gotta, But tell me what you think. What do you rate it from 1 to 10? And what was left out? So I'm gonna close it out. So I want to thank everybody for joining me on Saturday at the Boxtown Festival. That was my first live. If you have not watched it, please watch it. My new segment is Tea on Site. On Site with Tea. Sorry. On Site with Tea, where I just go out to the neighborhood, just interview regular people and just spread positivity. So and also, if you have any events or anything that's coming up in the Memphis area, please let me know. You can email me at unapologetically TT, that is unapologetically TETE at gmail.com. So I love you guys. And in the end, you have the right to tell your story unapologetically. I'll holler at you later. Peace and blessings. I holla.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up. never slow up, no I don't take shit,